All right, thanks again. So again, for anybody who's joining us in the back, if you want to kind of hang out for a little bit and listen in and kind of figure out, do we want to stay, do we want to go? Feel free to hang there. If you want to join the conversation, you're welcome. So just want to make sure I extended that same to that part of the room as well. So again, thank you everyone for being here at the Global Entrepreneurship Congress. My name is Mark Marich. For those of you that I don't know, I see a lot of familiar faces. I'm the executive vice president and accidental co-founder of GEN. I can explain why I say accidental in a minute, but basically we started Global Entrepreneurship Week in 2008, and originally it was a youth advocacy campaign focused on getting more young people to think entrepreneurially. And from there, the joke that I like to overtell is that we're kind of like Revenge of the Nerds for entrepreneurship. In addition to just the founders and the investors, we also kind of reach out and have rich conversations with policymakers, researchers, and other ecosystem builders who are dedicated to empowering entrepreneurs and their startups. And so it's great to have you here. This conversation, we're going to focus on a program that we developed in 2019 along with the MISC Foundation called the Entrepreneurship World Cup. We're currently partnered with Munshaat, and for those of you who aren't familiar with them, it's essentially the U.S. Small Business Administration for Saudi Arabia, and so we've been fortunate enough to be partnered with them for the past couple of years and are looking to expand the program. And so for those of you around the table that are current partners for the Entrepreneurship World Cup and you're reaching out and engaging founders in your countries and your communities, thank you. Thank you for all the work that you're doing this year. Thank you for the work that you've done in previous years. We do greatly appreciate it. For those of you who are maybe new to this and are wondering, what is EWC? How do I plug in? How can I plug in? Welcome. This conversation is for you as well. So if we can, actually, what I'm going to do is, I don't seem to have the clicker, but I'm guessing that I can get one pretty quickly. It's over there. It's made its way around the table. Thanks, Stephen. I'm going to kind of advance to the next slide here and kind of tell you all how we're going to structure this conversation. Before I do, I just want to give a quick shout out to my colleague here on my right, Steven Rodriguez. Longtime GEN member. He was with us in 2015-16 for a while. Disappeared, did a lot of work in startup communities in the U.S. for Techstars, down in Colombia, and he has rejoined us recently. So I'm super excited to have him back in the organization and back working on the EWC. So a lot of you have already talked to him, and we'll continue to interact with him on this project. So thank you. All right, really quickly. Session overview. This is intended to be a roundtable discussion, not me preaching to you from this seat. So I really want to get your ideas, how we can reach out and engage more entrepreneurs and support more entrepreneurs. So I'm going to do a really short overview of what EWC is for those of you around the table that aren't familiar with it. But again, I see a lot of familiar faces, so I'm not going to focus too long on that. Then we've got 4 different sections we're going to have the conversation on. We're going to structure that conversation. If you were in here for the last session, you saw that little countdown clock in the bottom right corner. So they're going to try and keep us honest and keep us on time. So we're going to spend 5 minutes talking about the current landscape with startup pitch competitions. We're going to spend 10 minutes talking about the value prop, maybe some messaging that we can use to appeal to more entrepreneurs, get them engaged. We're going to spend 10 minutes talking about channels and partnerships, how we all can be more effective in reaching out and engaging more entrepreneurs. And then we're going to spend the last 10 minutes getting a little bit practical and tactical, talking about tactics, experiments, and maybe some feedback. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and pop into our quick overview here of what EWC is. So each year, we've got about 15 to 20,000 entrepreneurs who apply for the EWC, and they're competing for a share of $1.5 million. We narrowed down that entire global pool down to about 250 top startups from around the world. Those startups are invited to participate in a virtual boot camp where they get some training and mentorship, pitch advice, and preparations for the global finals in Riyadh in November. Timeline. So A number of you may have seen our showcase on the main stage yesterday, where we picked a couple of winners that are U.S. startups to advance to the next round. Applications are still open, so we're trying to promote this to as many startups as possible. So applications are open through June. So for those of you who are new, entrepreneurshipworldcup.com. Anybody who enters between now and the end of June has a chance to advance. So just a note there. In July, we'll pick the top 250. After that, we'll do a virtual boot camp for those individuals. Again, mentorship training, a little bit of due diligence on our end, and we're going to select 100 startups to be global finalists who will then travel to Riyadh in November for the global finals. And we've kind of covered that a little bit. Global cash prizes. So it's a competition that is for all stages, all entrepreneurs everywhere. So it doesn't matter where you're from or what stage you are. You can access the competition. We have idea stage, early stage, and growth stage. So that way startups are competing against similar grouped competitors. We've got prizes for each of those groups. So we've got early stage prizes. There's probably the biggest group there, ranging from $250,000. Again, cash, non-dilutive prizes for the winner, down to $50,000 for, I believe that's 5th place. We've got a couple of growth stage prizes. We got a couple of idea stage prizes, and then you'll see we've got some sector prizes that are focused on space tech. Space tech for mining, for sports analytics, health monitoring, and ag and resource management. So that's a quick overview on the EWC. So before we jump into the discussion, by a show of hands, and again, I see a lot of familiar faces, but some of you I haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet. So show of hands, how many of you are current EWC partners representing your country? All right, good sized group, maybe about half. And then so I'm just going to force the rest of you to raise your hands too. How many of you are not current partners for EWC? So if you didn't raise your hand a second ago, you should be raising it now. Thank you, Constantine. All right, that's helpful. But again, this conversation is for everyone. So for those of you who aren't current partners, I'm assuming you've got some level of exposure or experience with startup pitch competitions, and so your ideas are valid here. Okay, so understanding the landscape. We're going to do 5 minutes here really quickly. Anybody just wants to chime in, I'm going to throw it open right now. So awareness and perception. And this can be anybody answering this question. You know, how well known do we think EWC is amongst the startup founders in your ecosystem, your region, your country, your community? So who wants to chime in and kind of just give a sense? Over here.
Can I just ask how long you've run for? How long has it been going?
The competition?
Yeah.
So great question. We developed it in 2019, and so we've been running it now for just a little bit over 5 years.
So no awareness, and I've worked in lots of universities and lots of ecosystems. So it's interesting and exciting, but no awareness.
Very fair, very fair.
No awareness. No awareness.
We've got no awareness here. All right, this is good. This is promising because that means there's a lot of untapped potential that's out there.
Could you maybe each say where you're from, too? That would be informative.
We'll start first.
UK?
UK, fantastic. And over here?
Florida.
Florida. Okay, great.
Hi, I'm Jaren from Singapore. I just want to do justice to the organizers. So we've been involved in Singapore since 2019 for Entrepreneurship World Cup. And it's one of the top entrepreneur competitions, at least in Singapore and Southeast Asia, for companies who are looking for global expansion. And of such, we do have successful case studies where a couple of startups from Singapore have been to the global finals and have won the competitions. One of them is Turtle Tree. In 2020, they won. They also received investments from Prince Khalid, who was one of the judges from Entrepreneurship World Cup. And today they have raised 40 million and they have commercialized their product, and they're doing really well. They're also here in the US.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's the best kept secret in some places, and in some other areas we've got a bit more awareness. So why do we think that might be? Is that because startup pitch competitions in general, there's like some kind of negative perception or connotation about them? Or is it just that we're not doing our jobs at a global level? Any sense of kind of why that might be and what kind of perceptions are out there, positive or negative, about pitch competitions? Yeah, Konstantin?
Mark, do you have any statistic from the last 5 years about the countries who participate? Then we can analyze which country is more advanced and less advanced.
Yeah, I don't necessarily off the top of my head have stats on individual countries. We've had on average over the past 5 years about 50 to 75 partner organizations that are representing their country. And so what we ask them to do from a global level, Jen runs kind of an awareness campaign, and we try to mobilize through our digital outreach through partners awareness, but we're really the model is that we're really relying on that partner network to get out there and promote it in their communities, in their countries.
The question is in the statistic, making 100 finals, from which from which countries the startups are coming?
Good question. I don't have access to that data off the top of my head, but I would say that on average, of the 100 finalists that fly in to Riyadh for the global finals, we've probably got about 40 to 50 countries that are represented. So it's a strong spread. If I'm being completely honest, there are regions in the world that we're a little bit stronger and areas where we're weaker. Europe is one of those areas that we do have some finalists that join us in Riyadh, but in terms of overall participation and applications, those numbers are smaller on the European continent than others. I see a hand over there from Cardell, and then right next to her after that, and we're going to move on pretty quickly after this.
Right. In answer to your question about why the perception of pitching competition, one of the reasons why we may not be getting as much uptake from some regions is because there may be some trust issues and there may be some mindsets that we need to correct before we get to the point where we can have a wider participation of young entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs in general in pitching competition. So that is one of the things that I think as persons running this program, we need to do year-round, work on getting persons ready for pitching competition, get them understanding why they're doing it and some of the potential benefits that they can get from participating. And I think that's going to help us to get a wider range of people who can help to advance the Entrepreneurship World Cup.
Thank you. And we are running a second over on this, but I'm going to steal some time from the next session. So I know you had your hand up over there. Please announce yourself and your country, please.
Hi, my name is Cervantes Lee. I actually represent Taiwan, but also university professor in California. My question to the host, for the World Cup, are you trying to reach out to all the universities so that they can put together a formal class so that the student in that semester can represent their school, can represent region to come to the World Cup final? Thank you so much.
Great question. We haven't done so yet, and I wouldn't even know how to begin to get that ask into universities. Is there like a central repository, a central kind of collating or coalition body? Tim, you okay?
Is this something okay?
Yeah.
So the thank you. So Tim Barnes from the UK again. the question is what's happening right now with pitch competitions, and you mentioned Europe. There are literally thousands, right? And so this isn't a development thing, and there's a huge amount of noise, and it's a lot of it's there. And we've moved from a market where 10 years ago-ish, people were actively seeking out opportunities to promote themselves, to one where actually programs are chasing down the people to apply. So it's actually the market has flipped, right? So you have to be offering something interesting and different. Most of that is experiential, I would say, the valuable bits. We can introduce you to a big corporate who is going to be able to market to you or is an interesting customer. The interesting thing for me is you've got one of those with EWC because it's around the travel and the international exposure and the ability to do that. So it hasn't been widely marketed, as Anna said, in a way that's moved in. We do have networks of university entrepreneurship that are national and global, including GEC that's here in force at this particular conference. That could be done, and you are offering something different, but there isn't a piece of marketing collateral that I've seen that would just fit that, which I can just push on.
Great, thank you for that. I'm actually going to kind of move ahead to the next slide because that's a perfect transition for us in terms of the value proposition and messaging. And so again, it's how, I think part of that is going to be how we can better tailor our messaging and our collateral to communicate, what it is that's appealing about that. So we've got the clock ticking on this about 7.5 minutes. But so apart from the exposure, the global exposure and the connections. So I've clearly logged those two as things that we really need to lean into because our team has been kind of having that conversation like it's more than just the $1.5 million in cash prizes. Because I think there's probably a bit of mindset of people that are like, you know what, the chances of me getting that is going to be slim and none. It's split. The pie is split. Like that's not why I'm in it. So why am I in it? So global exposure, one, global connections, another. I see a hand over here and we're going to go. And we'll come to you next.
Morning, everyone. I'm Rodrigo from Brazil. Actually, I would agree completely with the UK, but I'm adding a little bit just about this. I think the messaging, it's too much confusing because if it's for everyone, it's for no one. So if we are focused on pretty much early stage companies and also late stage, we could have different trails for them, so different streets, and then we can separate which criteria means for early stage and also for a late stage, and why could be a good thing for a late stage to participate and also for early stage, because they are seeking for different things, and if you put all together, we probably can't get the best of any of them.
Right. It's a great point. So just to make sure I kind of heard that properly, so basically tailor our messaging, our collateral, and also the experience to the different stages. So something separate for idea stage, for early stage, and for growth.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. Renee, I promised you first, and I need to look over this direction here too.
Thank you very much. I agree with that. I think that's a good point to separate the three stages. But at the same time, I believe that some of the people that goes to the finals, about the 100 startups, only 1, 2, 3, 5, they can be winners. But we don't do the follow-up. I think we should do the follow-up because a Bolivian startup that went to the final, to the 100 group, came back to Bolivia with $1 million from another place. So what we do, we need to do the follow-up of all these startups that have the showing, the promotion, but then when they come back, they became important.
Okay, I think right here, and then I'm going to come across the stage or the table to you next.
I'm Luis from Peru. I completely agree with René. We sent 2 startups. One of them is already over $10 million. That for Peru is a lot of money, sales, and they are scaling to Italy, and they have become rock stars in Peru. And the other startup just already won the Compass Prize. So they're getting a lot of attention, and that's good for them. That's one of the things that we should focus more in explaining what's happening afterwards. And on the other side, how do you measure your your categories. For us, a startup that might think that they are in a growth stage for Peru is not comparable with a startup that is in a growth stage in China or in the US. They are actually early stage. So the information is not transparent because everyone understands another thing. Right. And if you cannot measure what you are explaining, the message is not clear for everyone.
Right. That's a good point. And I will say that we do post the criteria for the various stages in the rules section of the website, but your point still stands, which is not everybody actually sees that. And so if we can find a better way to communicate that, make it more transparent, but also to let you know that in terms of process, what we do is we capture those 15 to 20,000 applications. We have a global review process. And so absolutely there are times, many times, when we've got applications that they're self-identifying as a growth stage, but they're not. We will reclassify. So that way it's a little bit of a flatter competition.
Hi.
I'll come back to you in a second.
Yeah, thanks.
So, yeah.
Kristen Welch, done a lot of pitch competitions, both from the startup side and judging across the US and in Europe as well. And I was thinking about follow-on. For example, on page 87 of the book, you've got last year's winners. Where are they now? I like to lead, when I think about technology, lead with a use case. And this is a little bit like that. Lead with a use case for success. Where are they now? Pick one that's done a great job. Where have they gotten to with your money, with your PR and the messaging? And then take them through the process to lead others along behind them. That was my thought on that.
That's a great point. I think over here, Scott, or...
So mine's real quick.
Please introduce yourself.
I'm sorry, I'm Scott
Fox.
Fox.
Everybody knows you.
I'm Scott Fox. I'm an angel investor based in Southern California. Recently got involved with EWC. Very excited about it. Anyway, two quick ones. In California, there's tons of competition, so that's not a surprise. Jen doesn't have a huge presence in the United States, so there's a lot of fertile ground here we can do more with. But my specific suggestion is I've been surprised that almost none of the marketing, and even in conversations, talks about the free trip to Saudi Arabia. That's a big thing, right? I mean, you guys do it all the time, but for an early stage founder with no money, that's a big deal. Yeah, that's helpful for us to hear. I think sometimes there's a question, right? It's like how much of that is an incentive and how much of that is a break. If we're just kind of being completely transparent, but everybody that we've talked to has kind of been like, this is an exciting kind of market growth opportunity. That was my thought anyway.
So, okay, great, thank you.
I will suggest to emphasize more verticals, like we have a great space verticals, and this is something unique. We don't have much competition related to space, for sure. So I suggest to messaging with the verticals, not just just overall, but to have more focused one. And for survival bias theory, what's happening with the 90 companies that reached Riyadh and what's then? Right. I suggest them to have some kind of system. First of all, to try to connect them with the other partners, because you have a 90 startups, 90 potential pipeline that we didn't use. Okay, there was outsiders, but it will be some good companies from this 90 as well. We need to understand.
There'll be some great companies from that 90, and so this is just a chance. I'm going to come across the table there in 1 second, but to do another shout out to Stephen here on my right. So part of that is there's two layers to this, right? One is marketing, messaging, collateral, and getting that material out there. Another part of it is having the knowledge and the information, right? And it's community management, and that's the part where really Stephen comes in terms of being that main point of contact for all of our founder community, but especially for that group of, I'll say 100, but the 90. It's not to forget the 90 when we're focusing on the 10 that win, right? When they're there, yeah, absolutely. So, so we've got Stephen in here. He's our community manager when it comes to that founder community, and he helps us mine, those updates. Where are they now, right? But then we've got our communications team that kind of takes that knowledge and kind of acts on it. I know we just heard the ding. I might rob another minute, but I think there was a comment over here.
Thank you. For the communication channels, we are talking about, we in Colombia now have the second place to 386 startups already in application. I think the best practices we have made in Colombia was to have the stakeholders that spread the information, but at the same time, we here in this table have several questions about how many of that 300 startups knows exactly, well, what are they doing after just making an application about a form. Yep. Because there is no so many communications directly, and the follow-up that Renee mentioned is, I think, is not in the last part of the EWC, but now in the early stage of the application, we have to make that follow-up to know exactly that startups has, founders has in mind that what is exactly the kind of exposure and other benefits to, has to be in this global competition.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very good information, just in terms basically from our team communicating better to the startup, so that way they feel like it's not just they submitted an application and it's gone into the abyss somewhere. I'm going to kind of move on to the next section, if that's okay, because you started to touch on kind of channels and partners. So again, these are natural transitions. Thank you all so much for doing this. It's make my life a lot easier. So this is obviously a focal point of ours. That's why you're all here, right? And that's why we're trying to expand those partnerships. So what is it that we can do to be more effective in engaging new partners?
Is there a way? Sorry, that's me.
Oh, Cardell.
Following on from what my colleague here was saying, is there a way that the local partners can get an idea as to who would have applied, so that we can follow up with them on what is happening, so that everything does not fall on your doorstep to provide those communication? And then there may be people who have started the process of applying and have not completed. We can therefore follow up to find out what's the problem, where is the bottleneck, why are you having a challenge, so that we can get the right people in the door and they are representative of what we are doing in country.
I think that's a valid point. And Stefan, I'm going to come to you next. I saw you had your hand up. I think what I would say to that is that we could absolutely do a better job of that. We've kind of used a couple of different platforms to manage the competition, and so some have had different capabilities. So I know on the custom-built platform we used originally, there was the opportunity for our national partners to be onboarded onto that platform, have direct access to the data. I know that's not the case with our current platform. I know we've run exports and given access to that data to all of our partners, and so we do share that information. We will continue to look for ways to maximize that and squeeze that bit to make sure that we're reaching as many people as possible. But I will say, though, that even when we've restructured the application this year to make it simpler to fill out, and the number of startups that we have that are actually completing it now, not just starting it and being like, oh, it's too much, I have to come back to it later. The percentage of startups who are completing it now is higher. So we're not seeing a great number of folks who are not completing, but also I want to think about expanding. And even if we maximized everybody who started an application but didn't finish it, we're still kind of woefully short in terms of our goal of where we want to be of expanding this opportunity to as many people as possible.
Yeah, I've managed several startup competitions.
Oh, okay.
And one of the problems I see in some of them are that there's not a clear value proposition for the national partner. What's my return on investment? Is it exposition? explicit number of startups, are all non-profits for the national partners, or some are for profit. They all have different metrics of success. And the value proposition for the national partner is not clear. It's clear for the startup, but not for your partner. And if you aim compromise, there should be a clear value proposition for the partner.
That's a good point. And we do, our partner network is very diverse. In some countries, we have accelerators. In some countries, it's a government ministry. In others, it's an ESO supporting. And so it really does vary greatly. And I hear you loud and clear that the value proposition for those different groups is not going to be the exact same in every case. And so that's really on us to kind of do a better job of interpreting what that might be. And I'd love to kind of have a call out for some ideas on that in terms of what you think we should be pulling into our messaging in terms of what that value proposition really is for those partners. So while you're thinking about that, I'm going to come right next door to you right there.
I'm Vera from Namibia, and with regards to making this effective for partners, I would want to suggest right now we just push out the call for applications and so on, but if we could get more information in terms of your criteria for evaluating the applications, your criteria for evaluating the physical pitches that will happen at the day of the competition, this can help us better prepare our entrepreneurs and startups and make them feel more committed or more interested in this opportunity.
Okay, excellent point. We do have, again, I'll kind of point back to that evaluation criteria in the rules section of our website, but it's kind of buried in the fine print. And unless you really know where to look for it, you're not going to find it. And so I think we need to do a better job of proactively reaching out to both existing partners and potential partners, kind of making sure that you understand what that criteria is. I'm gonna come over here first, and then I've got everybody. All right, so let's go here first.
All right. Thank you. My name is Tong Lee. I'm a university professor here at Ball State.
Okay.
Although I'm not from School of Business, but I teach a lot of design-related classes, not in School of Business. And a lot of my students, I see the good fit for them because a lot of them have such great ideas, but they don't identify themselves as an entrepreneur, as this opportunity is probably not for them. But actually, I see a good fit. So my suggestion is maybe, phrase it, describe it, or in the message, like this is, if you have great ideas, come here, and we will mentor you and help you. So from educator perspective, I think this is a great learning opportunity for them to develop such identity.
Yeah.
So that's just the message.
Thank you. That ties directly to that comment and conversation earlier about customized messaging for the tracks, right? So that way, the idea stage, we're really reaching out directly to them. So I think we're going to come over to the UK.
Hi, I wonder if you don't need to reinvent the wheel. So Deutsche Bank do an amazing job of making applications to their under-30s eco-social entrepreneur program very, very accessible. And they also allow different types of applications. So I don't know what the process is for this because I hadn't heard of it, but are you including people who don't necessarily write that well? Can they do a video pitch? Have you got large format print so they can print it off? I think a lot of these competitions can be their barriers because there's so much text and not enough video explanations and ways in for people who don't learn purely through words.
Very valid, very valid.
Thank you. One of that topic about partnership, in my case in Colombia, is not easy to get understandable in the meaning of how all of this EWC thing makes the kind of exposure and the value proposition, as you said. But I'm here with the Reune. Reune is the whole universities in Colombia that has any minimum strategy of entrepreneurship. to get spread and to promote their applications into the universities indeed. But the question that is in this part of the table is about, we know that we have an idea stage, to say that, but what is the minimum basic one foundation about an entrepreneur has to have to be one of them, because when they get exposure again to the application form, there's so many information that maybe they don't have how to write it down. So for the universities, and Gloria Marlene is here in this GEC exactly to understand everything about all of the programs. Gen EWC, one of them, is because we know that we have all the material in Colombia to get into the 100 international. Obviously, we are going. In the past, we have 3 or 2 startups and founders in that global final. But for that base of universities, entrepreneurships, for all of the founders that only have an idea, they get so many difficult to get into, because they really don't have the time, the preparation, or maybe the guidance of a professor or something like that, that make him easy the way to get into.
Thank you. Yeah, that's something we can do a better job of, and it's kind of making it easier, so there's not a big barrier to entry. Stefan, I know I kind of pushed you off for a second there. It's easy to do with family members, it's like, I'll come back to them. But Stefan Recchi is our executive director for GenSpace.
So I can address all the points, right? Because I've had my hand up the whole time. But real quick on partnerships, it's about value proposition, not just value proposition to the partner, but how do they sell that value to our customer, the applicant, right? And I'm excited about space, by the way, GenSpace, right? Excited about the space track, but if the total addressable market is smaller than the other, what do we say, 100,000 applicants or whatever it is, a space company would say, it's not worth my time to get involved because I'm competing with a medtech, femtech, fintech, anything. So I'll never be considered even for the space sector prize, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because you still have to get into that 100 gate. And if you're not in that gate, you're never going to win that prize, right? So it's not like you have a separate track. So, and again, maybe an analogy of the World Cup doesn't include basketball, football, boxing, right? The World Cup is one sport, one protocol. The Olympics include all that.
Right.
So just to throw that out.
So being a little bit more, if I could kind of interpret that to being a little bit more prescriptive in terms of what the ratios are, what the numbers are that actually get access to the 100. So that way the space tech companies, as one example, would have more clarity.
They still have a conduit into that top 100 because if it's 100 fintech companies or medtech companies, the space guys will say, I don't have the time and effort to put the effort into this.
Right. Okay. Yes, over here, and then we'll come over, John, next.
Also follow up earlier. So I'm a faculty director for entrepreneurship university. Also, I teach entrepreneurship class, master's level, 40 to 100 students. My question, can we put in the syllabus so that students, they know when they sign on this class, they know this one of their actual curriculum activities, so that they prepare, even they didn't get paid, go to Saudi, but they still have that experience. I want to know, is that possible? Thank you.
So if I heard that correctly, so it's basically including EWC as a part of your curriculum, and so that way they have the experience, even if they aren't winners and selected to advance the competition, they can kind of say they're EWC participants, or applicants, is that right? Get access? Yeah.
Maybe provide copy-paste educational course syllabus type materials on the website that professors nationwide could copy and paste right into their curriculum.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. We had at one point in time, for those of you who've been doing this for a few years with us, you know that we had the EWC accelerates component to it, something that's kind of that's gone away, unfortunately. but I think it'd be critical to bring it back because then we could, instead of making just, a core set of training materials or educational resources available, we could do a better job of working with, universities. And so that way we can kind of flesh out that curriculum component to it. So then that way we say, if you are a student entrepreneur and, you are going through, here are your materials. So that's something that's a challenge that we're going to have to address.
I can help on that. I'm in California. Love to help with.
I will. One of us will be reaching out to you after this. That's for sure.
Thank you.
That's for sure. John, I promised you first, and then gentleman over here with his hand up and the glasses.
No, thank you. In terms of activating organizers, we used to have a Slack channel that allowed us to be able to catch up if we missed a meeting or a session, or just generally information around where we are, what's next. I just want to find out, is that still active? If not, what's the current platform for information?
Can you repeat the first part of the question? Sorry, I was checking my clock.
All right.
So
I just wanted to find out. So we used to have Slack channel that allowed us to catch up or just have general information as organizers around where we are.
Like meetups, like virtual meetups to kind of check-in points, is that, or access to data? Which
Slack channel. So in the channel,
he's talking about the Slack channel.
Yeah, Slack channel. Okay, so so again, community management. Excellent point. I think we did pivot this year to WhatsApp. So that's something that we need to make sure that we do a better job of reaching out to all of you on that. If that's something that you don't have that group on your WhatsApp yet, please, actually, so I'm going to throw out your email address. Steven, S-T-E-V-E-N, Steven at genglobal.org. Send him a quick email and he'll get you hooked up. So we have started to move away a little bit from Slack. It seems like WhatsApp is a little bit more immediate and we get a little bit more uptick in engagement on it. But it's the same concept, right? It's kind of connecting that
group. So the beauty about Slack was it gave us history. So if you missed a meeting, a record was there. If you came 3 months into, you could go back to January and see what happened. Then you didn't have to ask question. Whereas with WhatsApp, you only get what is communicated when you join.
Since you joined, yeah.
Understood. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
I got this gentleman over here.
My name is Derek. I'm from New York, two-time founder, small business owner, now in the ESO space, helping other entrepreneurs to build, whether it be small businesses or tech founders. I'm new to the World Cup, and as I hear it, in Buffalo, New York, specifically where we're at, we have a competition called 43 North in the States. They give out $5 million in prizes, and that's 5 entrepreneurs who get $1 million each to scale. Right, and one of the things as I'm hearing this, when we talk about specifically partnerships, how can the World Cup be that next funnel for these types of entrepreneurs, right? And then, and as I hear you guys talking, I'm thinking to myself, well, do you actually go out to some of the top pitch competitions in the respective countries or states to say, hey, your organization has produced X amount of founders through this dynamic pitch competition. Now take these founders, startup entrepreneurs, whomever, and let's get them to the world stage, right? Yep. And so that's kind of how as I'm listening to everyone, that's what I'm thinking this should be, right? That next level where top founders throughout the world who've already gone through some dynamic pitch competitions are now going up, against each other, if you will, right, for that dynamic prize. So that's kind of how I think about it, but I'd love to figure out how, the New York, Western New York can be a part of this global endeavor as well, too.
Thank you for that. And I know we're got about 40 seconds left here. We're a little bit over on time. It's lunch break, and so there's nobody waiting for the room per se, but I don't want to keep you all from lunch. So I'll kind of wrap it up by addressing that point and saying that it's something that we've talked about because there's 2 different bits, right? There's quality and there's quantity. And so if we're thinking that we want to reach, 15,000, 20,000 founders and startups, that's kind of a big net. But then when we're talking about quality, and that kind of World Cup component to it, that's something that we've had discussions internally. We've done that to a limited degree in terms of reaching out to some other partner competitions, but kind of, it's almost like, think of it this way. Think of that Jen is sponsoring 43 North and saying, I mean, we're not going to give you $5 million, but we'll say, you know what, we're gonna give you one slot, like, one express pass to the EWC 2, or maybe 3 express passes to the EWC 250, or 1 to the 100, or there's something that we could work out there, and that kind of helps us make sure that we've got, a quality group of 100 that are there in Riyadh at the finals, but that we have to use other tactics to address that quantity component. Because I don't know how many you get at 43 North. I'm guessing for $5 million, $1 million a piece, probably a lot of applications.
Yeah, there's a couple of thousand applications that come in, and it's actually global. So we have people who are applying globally to move to the Buffalo, New York area. Some of the criteria is just quickly, you have to be at a certain level or stage of your organization. But more importantly, we are committing to say that you come here, you're actually there for a year in hopes that you can build. Yeah. And we're close to the border where Canada is as well too. Yep. So we're essentially also working in international, waters as well too. So.
Well, I definitely want to make sure that the two of you are connecting after this. I mean, that soft landing component is a big piece to this, right? Because, I don't know if it's government funded or whatever, but, obviously that doing business in the Buffalo area or the upstate New York area is an important component of that. I'll be completely transparent, for our partners over at Munshot, they're looking at it the same way. It's a chance for them to fly in 100 very promising startups to Riyadh and talk to them about what it takes to do business in Saudi Arabia, right? Now, that's not a prerequisite for our startups entering the competition. They don't have to be interested in that. But Scott, like you mentioned, that's a really, really appealing piece of it is market exposure, right? So very valid point. Okay, so I'm not going to keep you all from lunch. Thank you all for joining. There's a slide here at the end that, I didn't have. Anyways, as you've probably seen and heard in all these other sessions, we're recording everything. We're processing content and turning this around. So that way all of you will see and hear and read, hopefully, the outputs from these discussions. We're committed to making this program a success. We appreciate your interest and your involvement, and we look forward to continuing to work with you all. So thank you so much.